Senator, would you like to begin?
Thank you, Senator. Members, I bring SCR 48 before you to basically start a conversation I think is very needed. Our voters have expressed very strong support for criminal justice reform by overwhelmingly passing, as you know, Prop 47 and Prop 57. And I think we all have strong agreement, both our residents and our legislature, on the need to keep people in prison who are dangerous, while at the same time providing relief and the full opportunity for rehabilitation to those who have been given disproportionate sentences. So what SCR deals with is a unique sentencing category that we have where today a large number of people who did not participate in a murder directly are serving life sentences for first-degree murder. So let me explain. It is the felony murder rule. So under the felony murder rule, criminal liability for a homicide is very, very broad. So a prosecutor only needs to prove that a defendant was a minor participant in the commission, attempted commission, or fleeing from the scene to secure a first-degree murder conviction. In other words, in a case where the person was unaware that the killing took place, or that the killing was intentional or unintentional, they can be charged with first-degree murder. And I'll give you an example in a situation in Illinois in 2008. In 2008, 3 teenagers broke into a home. 2 stayed outside. The teenager who broke into the home startled the homeowner, who then in turn shot and killed the young man who broke into the home. The other 2 were still outside. The homeowner was cleared of murder due to self-defense, and the homeowner was not, himself was not obviously murdered, nor was anyone else other than the individual who broke into the home. The 2 teenage boys who stayed outside were, under the felony murder rule, charged with first-degree murder and sentenced to 30 years in prison. So now in civil cases, we have the ability for a practical means to determine relative guilt or liability. But the felony murder rule itself stands out for the lack of this balance and this fairness. There's not that ability. So the purpose of SCR 48 is to start a new conversation about the frequent inequities that arise from the use of the felony murder rule. So I would like to now have my witnesses in support address this. I think, Cerise, do you want to go first? Were you going to go first, or was
Jessica Jackson? I'll go.
Jessica will go first. Okay.
Good morning. I'm Jessica Jackson, National Director of Cut 50. The felony murder rule is a legal doctrine that excludes considerations of context and intention in a crime. When someone is killed during the commission of a felony, regardless of how or by whom they're killed, all those who committed the underlying felony are charged with murder. I'll give you a little background about where this came from. The archaic felony murder rule was conceived in England in the 1700s and brought to the United States in the early 1800s. The felony murder rule has since been abandoned in all other common law jurisdictions, including England, Ireland, Canada, Australia, and in India. In fact, the United States is the only country in the entire world that still uses the felony murder rule. Not all the states in this country use it. Hawaii, Kentucky, and Ohio eradicated the practice by statute. Michigan no longer uses the rule as it's been abolished by case law. When the Michigan Supreme Court abolished the felony murder rule, it noted, "The felony murder doctrine is unnecessary and in many cases unjust. It violates the basic premise of individual moral culpability upon which our criminal law is based." Under the felony murder rule, criminal liability for a homicide is significantly broadened, and a prosecutor only needs to prove that the defendant intended to commit the underlying felony, even if the murder was not intentional or was accidental. In one case, here in California, 3 teens were charged with murder when a fist fight broke out between several of the teens inside a backyard fort where the boys regularly sold marijuana. In the altercation, one of the 3 boys stabbed 2 others, killing one of them. All 3 teens charged were found guilty of murder, even though only one of them had actually done the killing, and the other 2 didn't even know he had a weapon, let alone that he was going to kill somebody. This story is not unique. There are many more cases that describe the same questionable circumstances, where even the intent to commit the underlying felony, in this case a robbery, is in question. Sentencing under the felony murder rule varies from 25 years to life without parole, to even death sentences. Many times the actual perpetrator of the homicide receives a lesser punishment than their co-defendants who never killed or intended to kill anyone. It is cruel and unusual punishment to not assess individual liability for non-perpetrators. We need to reform the disproportionate sentencing caused by the felony murder rule, and it is our belief that everyone should be held accountable for their actions, but only in proportion to their participation in the crime they commit. Thank you so much for your time.
So
witness.
thank you, Senator Ansel. My next witness was actually sentenced under the felony murder rule. Cerise.
Hi, my name is Michael Mendoza. I'm a policy associate with Cut 50. I wasn't convicted under the felony murder rule, but the letter I'm going to read to you is from an individual who was convicted under the felony murder rule. Fortunately, he couldn't be here today because of parole restrictions. So I'll start by reading his letter. My name is Cleo Cloman, and I am very grateful to share that I was released from prison on May 19th, 2017, after serving 22 years. I write this letter with a heavy heart for 2 reasons. As a young person 22 years ago, I was looking for direction and turned to the wrong crowd. I was an athlete with dreams playing for professional baseball. I was just a kid trying to figure out the complicated relationship with my father, which led me to believe that I could find a better father relationship in the streets of my community. Nobody tried to understand that about me. I wanted to prove to my peers that I was worthy of their approval and chose to commit a robbery. My role in the crime was to drive my friends there and back. Unfortunately, as I waited in the car, another human being's life was taken. I was charged under the felony murder rule and convicted of murder. I had no idea or intention to leave my home January 16th, 1996 to commit a murder. Secondly, at the age of 18, I had no understanding of court proceedings surrounding the felony murder rule. I was completely oblivious to the fact that if I committed a crime with someone who killed another person, I would be charged and found guilty for murder even if I did not pull the trigger, or even that it would be possible that I would be found guilty. I did not understand what it meant to be charged with special circumstance. I took a deal of 25 years to life with the possibility of parole to avoid a possible life without parole sentence. My paralegal and public defender suggested that taking this plea bargain was best for me. They confided in me that taking a plea was far less harsh than my 2 other options, so I admitted to being a murderer. At the age of 18, I entered a maximum security prison, labeled a murderer, and for the next 22 years, that was the label I carried. To this day, it is a label still held against me. I did not have a clue what a murderer thinks or acts like. I played the role of a monster among monsters. If I was charged with robbery, I would have accepted that fact because honestly, that is what I chose to do. I despised the label of a murderer. It wasn't until a decade and a half later that I realized what had to be done in order to regain my freedom. Not only did I have to have a complete transformation of who I was at 18, I had to change my thinking, behaviors, and beliefs. But the hardest thing I had to do was admit and take responsibility for the murder of an innocent man I never seen or met. I am very remorseful for my actions that led to the murder of an innocent man. I was found suitable for parole at my first board hearing, which rarely happens for anyone. However, I did everything I could to prepare myself for freedom. This was because of the amount of support I have and family and friends, and the amount of support I accumulated inside prison with volunteers who are advocates against unfair sentencing of men and women in the California Department of Corrections. At this moment, I can say I made it out of prison under the felony murder rule. However, how many people do not make it home, when the fact is they did not murder anyone? Please vote yes for Resolution 48 so we can rethink this felony murder rule.
We have additional witnesses in support.
Khalif Asagai on behalf of the California Public Defenders Association. We didn't get a letter in, but we are in strong support of this measure.
Alexandra Malik Williams from Cut 50 in strong support.
Natasha Minsker, ACLU of California, in support.
Maritza Galvez with the Youth Justice Coalition. We are in strong support of this resolution.
Tawida Shakur with Youth Justice Coalition. We're in strong support of the resolution. Thank you.
Joanne Shear, Director of Felony Murder Elimination Project. I'm here on behalf of our organization and also on behalf of my only child, Tony, who is sentenced to life without parole under felony murder. Thank you very much. I ask for your support for this resolution.
Gail Patrice Brown, I'm in support of this as a private citizen. Thank you.
My name is Marilyn Parker, and I'm here in support of Tony Vichon.
Patty Landers. I'm here in support of my son, Trevor Landers, who also is found guilty under the felony murder rule, and I'm part of the Felony Murder Elimination Project, and we ask for your yes vote. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janet Berger. I'm on behalf of my son, who has also been convicted of the murder felony rule and did not murder anybody, and I would appreciate your yes vote.
My name is Tammy Lovelace, and I'm here under the Felony Murder Act for Ted Cole, that you guys vote yes on this.
Angel Jones, please vote yes for my brother Theodore Cole.
Stacey Griggs, on behalf of Theodore Cole, please vote yes.
Janice Cole, on behalf of Theodore Cole, please vote yes. He didn't do nothing wrong.
My name is Sam Memphis. Please say yes for Ted Cole.
Hi, my name is Starla Confer. Please say yes for Ted Cole.
Kate Chatfield, Associate Professor, University of San Francisco School of Law, in support. Thank you.
My name's Chris Moore, and I'm in support of SC 48. My husband was sentenced at 19 years old, and he is in his 39th year. Please vote yes.
Mike Himes, in support of 48 for my stepson, who is serving life sentence without possibility of parole. Do I have a minute to read his bio that he sent me, or?
You know what? We
No,
have just
not-
2 witnesses.
that's
Thank
fine.
you, though. But
Thank
you know, what you can do is you can give it to the sergeants, and they can distribute it.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning. Dale Richter here in support of the resolution on behalf of the Friends Committee on Legislation of California. And if I could, just for a moment, add my personal experience. I have a son.
You know what? I can't do that.
Okay.
We have a format. If you have something in writing, if you want to give it to the sergeants, we'd be happy to read it. If you
Okay.
want to, and if you don't have something with this, you can certainly send it to any one of us, or send it to the chair or to me, and I'm happy to distribute it for you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any witnesses in opposition? Questions from senators?
Yep.
Senator Stone?
Yeah, thank you. Senator Skinner, if you want to change the manner in which the law is prosecuted, I'm just curious why you'd use a resolution rather than a bill.
The reason we chose to do a resolution initially was to begin this conversation, because clearly a lot of people don't understand the history of the felony murder rule, and clearly if we were to jump to doing a bill and somehow either the public or were to perceive that we are trying to make it easier for actual murderers to be released or to not be charged, there would be a lot of legitimate pushback. And so this was more, my purpose was really for us as a legislature and the public to begin to grapple with what the felony murder rule really is, the fact that we now have first that its history and that most every other country that had it in place has now eliminated it. We now have a number of states that have. So it's really to sort of have us all engage in that conversation, so at the point that I or someone else brings forward a bill, there would be an understanding and some more acceptance versus a creation of fear.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Mitchell. With that said, would you like to close, Senator?
I think Senator Weiner had.
Oh, I didn't see your little light on. Senator Weiner?
Yes, thank you. I want to thank the chair for bringing this resolution forward, and I would like to be kept in the loop about any possible future legislation. I think this is really important. I was just mentioning to Senator Mitchell that back in 1993, when I was a first-year law student in my very first criminal law class, before I knew I was a blank slate, so I didn't know much of anything about the law at that point. And I remember when we started learning about the felony murder rule and reading some of the cases, and it sort of blew my mind. I just couldn't believe that some of these people were being convicted of murder, of first-degree murder, frankly, and or the equivalent. And it just didn't make sense for me. And I think it's long past due to take a more thoughtful and targeted approach to who is truly culpable at that level in terms of their level of participation in the crime. So this is a very long overdue discussion, and I'll be happy to support this resolution.
We have a motion, and would you like to close?
Thanks so much. So I appreciate, Senator Stone, your question, because I am very, very proud of this, of how far California has moved in terms of making some very needed reforms. But I'm also sensitive to that if we move well past where our public is, or where even our legislators or law enforcement are, that we can have then a push, the opposite effect, and a lot of our reforms might be undone. And I, for one, certainly do not want that to occur. And while I feel very strongly that we should eliminate this felony murder rule from California's books, I and the coalition that brought this and the folks who have spoken, we want to have the conversation, and we want to get us all on the same page before we take the action. And ultimately, it is my intent, and I hope it is the intent of my colleagues and of law enforcement and of everyone in our state who wants to see justice served, that we would eliminate this rule. But for now, we will start with this conversation. And I ask for your aye vote.
This is, I apologize. I don't do this as often. I forgot. What did you tell me this is?
The motion.
Adopted to the Senate floor.
All right, Skinner?
Aye.
Skinner, aye. Anderson?
Aye.
Anderson, aye. Bradford?
Aye.
Bradford, aye. Jackson? Mitchell?
Aye.
Mitchell, aye. Stone?
No.
Stone, no. Weiner?
Aye.
Weiner, aye.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You did a
I'm
great
gonna
job.
give you-
Had a ton of great work. Really good job. I like it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we're going to go back to AB 1115. The motion was due pass to the floor. Mitchell?
I'm sorry. Aye.
Mitchell, aye. And what was the other one?
Highway 335.
Oh. Motion was due pass to appropriations. It was AB 335. Bradford?
Aye.
Bradford, aye. Mitchell? Oh, Mitchell's already done that one.
Oh, you're already on that one. I think you're good.
Do you want to look at them really quick before she goes? Look at these
Okay.
to make sure.
AB 484. AB 484, Cunningham. Bradford.
Aye.
Bradford, aye. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mitchell, aye. The consent calendar currently at 5-0. Bradford.
Aye.
Bradford, aye. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mitchell, aye. Sorry.
Okay.
I think we're good then. What?
Item 8. Item 8, 539.
They're all out of order now. Where the heck is it? I don't know where that. Okay, I'm all out of order now. Oh, here we go. All right. Do pass as amended to appropriations. Oh, I have you, Mitchell.
What about any others?
That's it, I think.
1459.
Clark Silva. I have you.
Item 16.
I wasn't here for 539.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I have Mitchell and Bradford missing.
Yeah,
All right.
I wasn't here for Acosta.
So maybe, okay, so AB 1459, Bradford.
Cork Silva.
Cork Silva.
1459.
AB 1459, Bradford.
Aye.
Bradford, aye. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mitchell, aye. All right, that one's done. All right, 539, Skinner was aye. Anderson, aye. Bradford.
Aye.
Bradford, aye. Mitchell.
No.
Mitchell, no. AB 368, Bradford.
368.
Marsucci.
Aye.
Bradford, aye. Goes out. All right. AB 1024, Kylie. Do pass as amended to appropriations. Bradford.
Aye.
Bradford, aye. Jackson's not here. All right.
Are we good
That's
there?
it. That's it.
All right, thanks so much. We'll now hear from Assemblymember Garcia, item 17, AB 1639.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of this committee. AB 1639 deals with the California Victims Compensation Board. And as we all know, the board has helped thousands of crime survivors to rebuild their lives following traumatic circumstances that they've faced. However, many Californians that identify as crime survivors.
Apologies, Assemblymember Garcia. I would normally never cut an author off, but we do have a member who has to leave. And since this bill was to be on consent, but I think that perhaps we should just immediately get into the close.
Well,
All right, so Senator Stone, you had a question on the bill?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and Assemblyman Garcia, I regret you didn't get a chance to give your presentation. My concern is not with somebody that has immigration status issues. I believe if you commit a crime against somebody here legally or illegally, that you should be able to be like a compensation for that. The issue that I have is based on gang affiliation or alleged gang affiliation. And I was going to ask you for an amendment just to clarify, to include that an alleged gang member cannot be denied unless his death was or injury was a result of his criminal activity in a street gang. Obviously, I don't want to give any gangbangers money if they die, their families, or if they are injured while committing crimes for the benefit of that gang. If you would take that amendment and clarify that, I would be very happy to support your bill.
Very open to the suggestion that you've made. I would have to take that back.
So allow me to intervene. That is an existing law. So he does not need to amend his bill. It is what you described is already an existing statute.
Well, I have had an attorney look at it. I think I have a difference of opinion with Legislative Counsel, and I would still request the amendment if possible. I'll lay off the bill today, and if we can get that amendment, I'll be happy to look at it on the floor.
Certainly would like to get some clarification on that for the comfortness of everyone, I think. What I would like to say that we know that the Cal gang database has some flaws. And one of the reasons to bring a bill like this forward is to ensure that within those flaws, of that database, we are not identifying individuals wrongfully, therefore ensuring that no one gets excluded from receiving some type of benefit in order to, what I see being really ending the cycle of violence in our communities. And we've heard from organizations in our district who help do the prevention intervention work, and this has become somewhat of an issue, and therefore the reason why to bring this bill forward. With clarification from Ledge Council, we certainly will get back to your office and anyone else interested on this matter that you've raised, but I wholeheartedly agree to the extent that if it needs to be clarified, we would do so. Respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Assemblymember Garcia. Senator Mitchell.
So I'm looking for clarification. So the chair said it is currently in statute. So Mr. Stone, are you saying that you have a outside legal opinion that questions that disagrees with current statute?
And has raised those issues with me, which I'll carry on a further discussion with that legal counsel.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if you were challenging legal counsel's opinion on the bill, or your attorney is challenging current statute.
The attorney suggested to make it more clear in this bill that we are not going to be providing any financial consideration for a gang member that gets injured or killed while in the commission of a crime, so they're not getting victims' compensation.
So the attorney's opinion is on the bill, not current statute.
Correct.
Okay, that's a little different than what I heard.
Yeah,
so the attorney's opinion is on the bill. Do you know if your attorney reviewed current statute?
Yes.
Is this
I believe
chair?
yes.
Because we're developing a debate here. And
No, I was asking for clarification. I wasn't debating.
Please proceed.
And so to finish my question, Mr. Stone,
Yes,
not
you may
debate,
make it.
it's an inquiry. So the attorney,
I will follow up with that.
thank you, because I just think that's an important distinction for all of us, to be perfectly
I think
fair.
the message was just to clarify the language.
In the bill. Thank you.
So in our committee analysis, it references the statute that, the existing law that would prohibit anyone involved in a crime from being eligible for the compensation. So anyway, so obviously we've had this debate long enough. You've already asked for our aye vote. Do we have a motion on the item before us?
Moved. So moved.
All right, so we have a motion, and it is due pass to the floor. It's not an appropriate bill, correct? Due pass to the floor. Can we have a roll call?
Skinner?
Aye.
Skinner, aye. Anderson?
Aye.
Anderson, aye. Bradford?
Aye.
Bradford, aye. Jackson? Mitchell?
Aye.
Mitchell, aye. Stone? Weiner?
Aye.
Weiner, aye.
All right, so we're gonna, thank you so much. The bill will be on call until Senator Jackson returns, and apologies that we didn't, but we would have lost Ms. Mitchell, so.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm all
Thank
over
you,
the place
Assemblymember
today.
Garcia.
No, that's okay.
If someone could contact Senator Jackson so that we can get her back to, right.
And you should be good too, Senator.
I know you're good, yes.
And you're on voted too.
So other than opening up the roll call, we are otherwise completed, but we don't need to lose everybody yet because
Or do you want to lift the call on this one, or do you want to vote on it, that Kylie bill? Just
I'll
you can
stay
vote
off.
on the
I'm
floor.
staying off.
Okay, so we can just.
That one's out. Pretty good, huh?
You may want to push that button.
Okay, all right, bye. They're gonna need her natural resources. Carlos, you got this? I want to dispatch it, 'cause we don't have dispatch.
And then the last one is AB 1639, do pass to the floor currently 5-0. Jackson?
It was originally, yeah.
Oh, it was originally on consent.
Yeah.
Jackson, aye.
Jackson, aye.
Thank you, folks. No, I think I was here for just about everything.
Oh, the Public Safety Committee is now adjourned.